Anybody that knows about the history of Smalltalk knows that Smalltalk is really prototype Dynabook software. And the Dynabook was the real big idea there. It was a personal knowledge device. And one of the key features was that the entire computer should be understandable and programmable by the end user. Of course, what we got was vastly inferior. We have applications which are stovepiped, which take a limited set of things in, do whatever the programmer programmed them to do, and spit something back out. And they're typically not very explorable, not very customizable, not very understandable. You can't usually dig in and change key things about the way the software works. And when you can customize it, it's usually an afterthought, like a little bit of scripting, a limited scripting dictionary, some hotkeys, things like that to make the experience less awful. But it's a far cry from having a pervasive a system where customization and explorability is pervasive. So how do we get around that? I'm going to show you the software I'm using. This is OBS Studio. It's broadcasting software. And you can see on the left here is, on the right, let's start there, is the screen that is currently showing. And on the left is the next screen that's queued up. And then in the middle, there's this transition button that switches back and forth. So I have some shortcuts set up. I can press, and the screen on the left will change. So I can press T for the title page to queue that up. I can press S for the screen to queue that up, or 1 for the camera to queue that up. And then the space bar would transition. So this is better than trying to navigate the GUI, which you can do down here to select scenes. That is incredibly distracting when you're trying to broadcast, especially if it's live. But it's still a little bit difficult to hunt and peck for keys while you're trying to broadcast. What we'd like to do is have something like Doug Engelbart's chord keyboard, where we can have our hand in one place and kind of without looking or thinking about it, have access to all the functionality that we need. And it turns out we can. So I'm going to show you this really, really cool hardware device called a Stream Deck. And what it is it's a thing, the size of a small tablet maybe, that has 15 buttons on it, and each button is independently programmable to what seems like any arbitrary action. And you can even, it has an LCD screen on each button, which you can set to whatever you want. So you could see how easily this could be linked to the shortcut keys in OBS Studio to perform these actions. However, I'm just so sick of buying more off-the-shelf product after product, software after software. There's always incompatibilities, driver issues, platform differences. So I decided to see if we could simulate this in Pharo. And it turns out we can. So this is a proof of concept. I made this UI with spec, and each of these buttons performs an arbitrary action in OBS, which are the ones that I just described, either selecting a different scene or transitioning. So I'm going to show you it at work. To convert our simulated hardware device into actual hardware, we use a really cool app called Duet Display, which allows you to use an iOS device as a second display for a MacBook Pro. This is the only part of this puzzle that wasn't open source software. It's $10, but it's really, really cool. It is similar to Catalina's sidecar functionality, except that with Duet Display, you can still use the touchscreen of your iOS device. So finally, if anybody wants to play with this, this actually is part of the Computer World project. that I have on GitHub, which aims to try and wrap and document in an executable way and make sense of all of these various stovepiped applications and services and things. It should load in Pharo 7 or 8. And specifically, the functionality that we just spoke about is in the OBS remote, which is, as you can see here, a spec UI. And just to show you the hookup, they're sending hotkeys. Hotkey is what OBS calls shortcuts. And this functionality, send hotkey, is actually in the OBS class. And we'll just take a look. And actually, the way that's implemented is it's actually just it's an sending AppleScript commands to simulate the keystrokes. So that's that. So you can play around with this and give any feedback, and hopefully this helps you to realize a small piece of the Dynabook dream on your own computer.